writing. Hype happy hour, talking about life, so you might feel empowered. Hype happy hour, tornado on the mic with a guest giving power. Hype happy hour, tools, interviews, provide life tapping power. Hype happy hour, positive and light with advice, build your tower. Happiness is key, so you gotta bring the smiles out. Inspiration needs a bit of passion to just wild out. Positivity and optimism when we ride out. Enthusiasm and dreams, gotta feed them till your time's out.
Let's go. Hyped Happy Hour. I am Gentle Tornado. I am your host on this magical journey. Hyped is a company that I created. It's an acronym that stands for happiness, inspiration, positivity, enthusiasm, and dreams. If you look down at the bottom left, my logo is an H with a heartbeat in the middle because we never know how many heartbeats we have. So I am here on a mission to make positivity louder, to make every single moment count. And I like to bridge the gap between personal life and Web3 with just incredible guests and talk about their story and talk about their life through Hyped. Today, on episode 46, I am joined by an absolute legend, a fucking incredible dude, a hard worker, a funny guy, someone that's given me just mad flowers. I absolutely love this guy. Crypto Cleo, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you having me on. Glad we were able to work through the issues. But, dude, I got to just give you flowers first and foremost for that intro song. Like, I've got to hear the story on that whenever you get the chance because that's pretty sick. Like, you know, it's, I think, the most legit intro song that I've heard tailored to this type of podcast / live stream since I've done them, at least in the crypto space.
Dude, I appreciate that for sure. And we can, my boy Dan the Lost Boy, he's fucking absolute goat. I met him at VCon, man, and we just became super tight friends. And he is like the best like songwriter for short clips, Twitter spaces, intros, and then he made me a custom one for my podcast, man. It was just absolutely goated, and it goes with everything I'm doing.
Love to hear it, man. Love to hear it. But yeah, no, definitely hyped for finally making this happen. I know we've been trying to make it happen for at least a month now. So yeah, man, excited to dive in.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped, man. I mean, Twitter DMs are absolutely terrible, so I understand. So I know I appreciate you being here. Listen, the first thing we do is we just started off straight away with what we're grateful for. So what are you grateful for today?
Oh man, dude, I'm grateful for a lot of things. You know, like I could go down the list of all the stuff in the crypto market, but dude, honestly, like this sounds really, really, really just cliche too. I really am thankful for friends, family, all that type of stuff. You know, it's something that I really have taken to heart recently, where I feel like throughout the course of the bull market, you know, it was something that you know, in the pursuit of the madness of everything that the crypto game is about, I feel like I kind of put a lot of those things to the side, and just really the past few months have been, you know, focusing on building back a lot of those relationships and focusing on that type of stuff. And it's amazing, man. Like, you know, the people that love you regardless. And like, it's, you know, definitely something that I am thankful for.
No, that's incredible, man. And I think like one of the most beautiful things about this Web3 crypto space that we're in is like these connections and these relationships that you can have. And just like you said, man, people are going to love you for you. And so I'm honestly excited for you that you're leaning into those relationships, because I think it is honestly one of the most, it's the luckiest thing we're able to have, plus just the best, like the relationships, the friendships, the energy that we can have every single day is just unbelievable. It really is.
100%, man. So what about you?
What am I grateful for today? Man, I'm really grateful to be a dad right now. I'm grateful for my kids and my wife. You know, we've been going through a little bit of stuff with my youngest kid, so just super grateful to just have my little 3 boys and be able to just have that opportunity to be a dad and you know, be their like protector, right? And mold them into what I think is a good person, and you know, go moving into this world, that's this crazy world, is just like teaching them lessons every single day. I'm really grateful for that.
Love that, man.
Let's go, dude. Well, listen, we started off with like a 2 to 5 to listen. You could do 100-minute. I don't care. Origin story of like who is Crypto Kaleo? Like where? Tell me like everything. Tell me how you came up. Tell me how you got into the space. Give me like what'd you do in high school? Give it to me.
All right, man. I'll skip through this pretty quickly. I mean, dude, like I discovered crypto back in 2017. I was working in oil and gas as an engineer, and there was a guy that worked at the company that was really plugged into ETH in the early days, and he gave a lunch and learn. And I actually didn't go to it, but all my friends came back and they were super hyped. So I heard about it and I kind of caught the bug. From there, I always loved looking at charts, analyzing trends, that type of stuff. So, started to become obsessed. Obviously, with the tech side is where it really started off, just understanding that, Bitcoin is not going anywhere, right? I think once you understand that, like, by its decentralized nature, that it does revolutionize freedom that it gives to people for both sending and storing value, that that idea really is revolutionary. It is something new. And the idea of the crypto space, for what it opens up as far as these decentralized applications and how it can revolutionize a lot of the permissions that you see in Web 2, really was something that was infectious also. So just diving and leaning in more to that idea, but also getting a little bit obsessed with the volatility side of things and trying to analyze different trends of the different coins became super fun. Had a lot of ups and downs in that space over the past several years. And that's the one thing that I've learned, if nothing else, is, like, there are times in this space that are easy. There are times in this space that are not easy. But at the end of the day, it's about zooming out, looking at the bigger picture. That's really what's kept me around ever since then. So, I really enjoy a lot of the volatility, the ups and downs. And I think it's one of those things too, when you talk about the crypto Twitter side of things, you don't really I think the thing that makes it really special is a lot of the people in your day-to-day life, you will never be able to talk about the different things you go through in this space with any of them and have any type of understanding without them looking at you like you're insane, right? Or even worse, almost, whenever things are going insane and they start asking you questions, like their brief window of time that they're interested, you're so burned out, you don't want to talk to them about it. You're like, it's just, there's something about crypto Twitter that's special in that sense. And I feel like that's really the black hole nature that gets you sucked in, that gets you, keeps you coming back. So anyway, like, found myself in that spot. And, I don't think that my account does anything that's anything more special than the next person. I had some good luck during the last bull run. And, I think that just ended up leading toward, the account growing and having a platform to be able to, continue to pursue what I love. And yeah, man. So it's kind of where I am today. I know I left out a million different things, but that's general background.
No, I love it. When do you think like your account really exploded? Like where would you say that happened? Just middle of the bull run, or do you have a moment?
Yeah, no, I definitely, like, two different things. So back in May of 2020, right, there was, right after the COVID run turned around, I had a few decent calls there at the very beginning of it. But May of 2020, I had this Bitcoin thread. It was actually Gainsey who saw the thread that was some fractal that I was, following, and it was just on point for like multiple weeks on every single move. And then Gainsey gave me a shout out, and dude, I was stuck from like 5 to 8K followers for years, which back then, I would say that would equate more to the type of account today that has like, maybe 25 or 30,000, right? Like all the numbers of everybody has grown over there. But he gave me a shout out, and I like doubled in size overnight. Right. So that was crazy. And the thing about it was Gainsey was connected to kind of the in crowd for CT. So then a lot of those people I ended up just making connections with. And it's one of those things where you start to interact with people that have that, you keep going, and just, man, was able to ride, like, where the most insane growth happened was spring of 2021, where I was, complete degenerate mode, posting these P&Ls that were absolutely insane, that I look back and I think to myself, what the hell were you doing? And yeah, like, it's one of those things, people like the flashy numbers and that type of stuff. So I think that really led toward, led toward a lot of crazy growth back then. But, that was the period that really launched everything off.
Dude, I love it. So you're a deep degen at heart. You're a degen at heart.
Oh yeah, man. I think the majority of people in this game, if anybody tells you they're not a degen and they're in the crypto game, they're a liar.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to be honest, I told this, I don't know if it was on the last podcast, but I was like, man, degenning in real life with your friends at like a conference is probably one of the greatest things ever to do. Out of the energy that you get when you all buy a project that is just your praying runs is just like something else. I really don't know how to explain it.
I was about to ask, man, like, what does degenning at a conference consist of? Bro, I won't even lie. The closest thing I've ever done to that was back in like May of 2021. It was my first conference that I went to, the Bitcoin conference, and I was just meeting people for the first time. I met this 3AC guy. He was one of their only traders. Whenever I showed up to this conference, he asked me, he was like, Kaleo, what play are you really big on right now? And this was summer of 2021. So, Luna was still really low. It didn't collapse until summer of 2022. It's like, well, I'm huge on Luna right now. I've got a big position, XYZ. I shit you not. Within 5 minutes, I walk away from that conversation. He walks off and I like see him in the corner somewhere. I look at the Luna chart. There is this massive red wick down. These people like chasing my, and I like, it was too perfect of a coincidence that I told, this 3AC guy, oh yeah, this is my biggest position right now. And a few minutes later, who 3AC, they were like the market maker, or one of the market makers outside of Alameda on FTX, ends up chasing down that position, trying to stop me out. So that's the closest that so at a conference, I was like, yeah, like I'm done talking about any of that type of stuff. That's the difference, I guess, between like, the trading game, the NFT game, but like, yeah.
That's crazy. So how much comparatively, like, do you still trade more than you buy NFTs, or how is it like the balance? Do you have a balance where you might trade NFTs more, or you do a lot of coins and stuff?
I mean, a lot of coins and stuff, man. I'm really, really bullish on the NFT space going forward. It's one of those things that like I love everything that the NFT marketplace has to offer. I feel like it's just a different type of community because, again, like you said, at the conferences and that type of stuff, you're all degenning into something together. It is not like this, dog eat dog world where the competition is trying to cut your throat and, stab you in the back as soon as you walk away. So I feel like it's just a completely different type of atmosphere, at least right now. I think that there are different vehicles that are going to change that game kind of as it grows into maturity. But it is a really fun and refreshing experience of the NFT marketplace versus the other side. Now, like there are trade-offs for each one of them, but I think that I'm pretty excited about where the NFT marketplace is heading here in the next couple of years.
No, I agree with you. I think it's there's a lot of good things that are going to come, and I think like getting into conference season, like it's a lot of hype normally around conference season, a lot of good energy. So we could see some crazy stuff happen. I do. I think we could see a lot of crazy shit happen.
Are you going to anything coming up here? I know the NFT Paris, a lot of people were just up there at that, but it felt like half of Twitter was at NFT Paris somehow.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I thought that a lot of people went. That made me excited because I did not think a lot of people would go to Paris, but a lot of people went to Paris. I'm going to go to NYC. I'm not going to LA, but I'm going to NYC, and then I'm going to go to VCon. And after that, I probably Art Basel in December. But are you going to go to anything?
Man, I have. So I'm going to stop by, I think, South by Southwest for a minute. It's part of the game plan. And then I wanted to go to ETH Denver. I just had some other things that, unfortunately conflicted with it. I might go to the Bitcoin conference coming up here, but outside of that, man, I don't have anything set in stone on the plate right now. And, I really want to up it. I just, I feel like after the past couple of years, you go on the conference circuit, and I'm not sure how many you've been to. I feel like you've been to a decent amount. I feel like there is occasionally this period where you get a little bit burnt out and you're like, all right, I need just a little break from the circuit and then like dive back into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. It's exhausting for sure, but I think it's great. Like, I think if you can, I would go to as many. I think going to the conferences is incredible because that IRL connection and that like you being able to sell yourself on a different level, I think is very important. That's why I tell people, I'm like, listen, the connection in person is way more intense than on fucking Twitter, and the relationships that you can make moving forward if you want to start a business or you want to launch a collection or whatever you want to do, I think is way more important in person. So that's why I value connections, because my energy is crazy on crypto Twitter, but like I've been a salesman for the last 9 years, so I know how to sell myself even more in person, and it's so genuine that it's not like sleazy at all. But that's why I do value the IRL at meetups.
Dude, I gotta ask, so your very first conference that you went to, who was the person that when you saw them you were like, you just kind of got a little bit starstruck? Was there anybody like that at all? Or would you say that, whenever you showed up in person, you were like, okay, this is an easy connection. I may have not met you, but you brought out that salesperson mentality and you're like, that's it. Like, I am going to be friends with them by the end of this day.
You know what? And in NYC, man, there wasn't really any. My first conference was, or was my first conference? No, my first concert was VCon last year. So, man, I would be lying if I didn't say Gary V. That was like, really important to me. But kind of after meeting him and talking to him for a few moments, it was just like, oh, he's just a normal dude. Like, I need to talk to him like I normally would. It was a little bit more meaningful to me because like I followed his content for so long. But at the end of the day, like, I don't really want to put anybody above anybody, and like, but yeah, like it was like I couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? Like he was just fucking walking around talking to people, and then like Logan Paul was there, which is like just like crazy celebrities were at the first VCon that were just like walking around talking to people, and I thought that was pretty crazy for sure. I mean, what about you?
Oh man, I'm trying to think. I felt like the very first one for me, kind of everybody. And I know that may sound weird. It was for me, Bitcoin, that summer of 2021, where I had never been to anything like that before. And especially if you're not doxxed, I think that it changes the game a little bit more. I remember there was a group of these crypto Twitter people that were all out at some bar that night. And I was so nervous to go out there and meet them. I literally, the very first night, just ended up like staying back, like not doing anything. I went back to the hotel room. I'm like, do I really want to do this? Is it something that I really want to dive in? Like, reveal my identity, this, that, and the other. But I think the very first, so I met like, one person that was somebody that I had talked to his name was Ponzi Trader. And, we talked back and forth a little bit, met him for a casual lunch, and it made it a lot easier because he knew a lot of those other type of guys. So then from there ended up meeting Gainsey. I think these are a lot of names that don't necessarily overlap because actually back then, crazy enough, summer 2021, there weren't really, many NFT influencers that really even existed back then. Like DeSpy was kind of coming on the scene a little bit. Farouk was still, I think, like 7,000 followers or so. Wasn't really huge. I know he had his Instagram presence, but he didn't really have a huge NFT presence. Yeah. Gary V, I would say, was probably the biggest. But I mean, NFTs weren't a huge thing back then. So I would say, like the Crypto Dog was definitely one of them whenever I first met him. And outside of that, like, I don't know. This one also sounds really cringy, but SBF was probably the person that I was like starstruck whenever I saw him.
Yeah.
Right. Because SBF at that point was like the golden child.
Yeah.
And I remember I was super excited to go up and talk to him. And I looked at him and I shit you not, you know, whenever you sit there and you saw his old interviews when he's sitting there and looking out in the distance, not really engaging with the person that he's talking to, and that he's playing League of Legends while he's doing the interview, I think that's where he is mentally, even in person. Because I sat there, tried asking him a few questions, and I like his eyes looked like the same thing. I was looking behind me, looking for the screen that he was watching, doing something like, you know, you don't see it. So the person in person lived up to the expectation of what people saw behind the scenes too. But that was probably one that, like, at the time, I won't lie, like, I was a little bit nervous whenever I met him back then. Looking back at it, you know, it's so stupid, but yeah.
No, I would say the same thing. Like, I probably would have been the same way. I would say, like, to be honest, I'm like the counter of that, right? So, like, for me, was when people knew who I was way more intense than me seeing someone and being like, oh, that's even Gary Vee, like I've watched fucking thousands of hours of his content. Like, yeah, it was cool to see him and be there for him, like at his conference, like to be there. But like when people knew who I was like, what? Like that was way more of an experience for me than like meeting, you know, Farouk or something, or K-Money, or like that would be sick. But like when people knew who I was, like that was more me being almost starstruck, just the fact that anybody followed me.
No, feel that, man. There always be that one person that you run into that's like that. But, you know, I don't know if you've noticed it. Whenever you do meet the majority of people in person, like the guards fall down pretty quick. I think that's something that I noticed. The relationships, especially if you have talked to people on Spaces, they translate pretty quickly in person the majority of the time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree as well. Like, I think this year of conferences is going to be way crazier because I think we've all spent a lot more time together. I think like last year, you know, coming off of 2021, there was like, yeah, like we kind of all knew each other, but like now we've created connections, right? Like I have a connection with you. Like I have a connection with so many people that I didn't before, that when, you know, I meet these people in person, it'll be even a bigger connection. But I do agree with you for sure. I think it makes it easier.
Oh no, it definitely makes it easier. So yeah, man, you know, one of these days I'll actually talk, so it'll make it a heck of a lot easier at the conferences.
Yeah,
go ahead
for sure,
and meet people. Sure.
But you got a pretty good voice, so like I'm sure people could spot you. But let's move into so what we do is we go word by word. We start with happiness, right? The words within hyped. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to read you my favorite definition of success. I love reading this. I read this every single episode. So it's by Ralph Waldo Emerson. It says to laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate the beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, how do you feel about it?
I agree with it, right? So many people focus on some type of status that you achieve or some type of material wealth. But I think that success is so much more than that, right? Like, you know, there's a reason why there is, you know, super high depression rate with a lot of people that have all this wealth, because again, it can be incredibly isolating, right? When you're pursuing something like that, like, it doesn't bring you joy. At the day, I think it is true where it's like more money, more problems is a real thing. Yeah. You know, and like one of my favorite Bible verses, James 4:13 through 17, or passages, talks about how it's like, you know, now listen, you who say today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. And you know, it's like, that's so true. right? We really are like, that's what life is. It's fleeting. And if you're pursuing just this wealth and it doesn't have a greater purpose behind it, then, like the happiness isn't going to be there.
Yeah, no, for sure. I absolutely love that. I think like I'm reading a book on hurrying too much right now, and just the slowing down and like cherishing the moments. I was playing hide and seek with my kids earlier, and we had the best time ever, and just slowing down and like being truly in that moment was something that I'm never going to forget. And so to me, that's like true happiness.
Love that, man. Yeah, like I'm sure having kids takes it even to the next level.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm so blessed. What makes you happy every single day?
Oh man, I mean, it may sound like, let me think. What makes me happy every single day? Dude, I love being active. And again, that's something else that I've focused on getting back into. So, like, I love getting out, playing basketball, going outside, enjoying doing something basically other than sitting behind the computer screen. As much as, like, winning a trade or making a connection on here is great. I think that doing something like that is also, like, definitely adds some type of fulfillment too. And the other thing I want to add to it too is like, dude, if you have the opportunity to help somebody else, I just got back plugged in as a Young Life leader recently. I took a break for a few years, and I really think it's cool having the opportunity to work with a bunch of these high school kids that don't really necessarily have this clear-cut path as far as what they know for how to succeed. And, a lot of these families, the high school that I work at is, like they come from really broken homes, and a lot of them live in poverty. And, a lot of these kids are super smart, and, they just don't have that figure in their life to be able to lead them and guide them to say, hey, like you can go to college, you can pursue something bigger than this circle that you've been taught that you're going to be stuck in your entire life, right? Like there's opportunity outside of that. So I think having the ability to just see that impact on them really is something that, like honestly, at the end of the day, as much as I enjoy doing things for myself, I think that it does make a lot bigger of a difference when you see somebody else that's impacted by what you do.
No, I absolutely love that. And it's crazy that you brought that up, because I'm starting a nonprofit this year focused around teen mental health. And my plan is to go into high schools and start curriculums with these high schools that in Las Vegas, and build their leadership skills and be there. And so the fact that you got just back into Young Life is like incredible that that was wild. I never would have expected that to happen. And the fact that I'm starting a nonprofit this year based around that's like my biggest passion is, besides my family, is helping young teens.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, you want to know the funniest thing too? So I thought there was no way in heck I wore a Wonky Stonks hoodie to the first Young Life leader training back at the beginning of January, for starting off the second semester, because I was like, yeah, there's no way that anybody's going to have any idea what this is, right? Like it's such a niche, NFTs in and of themselves are really niche, and the stonks are, even more niche. So I walk in, and within the first minute, this guy walks up to me. He's like, oh, Wonky Stonks. He's like, that's the NFT collection, right? He's like, that's awesome. He's like, how do you know about that? I was wild. And I was like, wait, you know what the Wonky Stonks are? And he was like, yeah, man. He's like, that's the thing, I think, released by like Kaleo Crypto or Kaleo Crypto. And he was like, isn't that right? And I was like, yeah, man, like, that's my project. And he was like, and he literally, he had a plate, like a paper plate, had some pizza, and he had a water bottle. He dropped both of them on the ground. Josh just dropped. It was the funniest thing in the world.
That is awesome.
Like watching that happen. But, so it did show me, I was like, okay, maybe if somehow I was doxxed, like, there'd be a few more people that would recognize me like around town or whatever else, because I guess it's not as small of a world as what you think that it is.
Yeah.
But that was super funny going into there.
That is an amazing story. I mean, are you not doxing for like security reasons, or why aren't you doxing?
Yeah, it's a combo of a lot of things, man. I know that there are a lot of big accounts that do it and they pull it off and it works well for them. But, from the privacy perspective, like, you just never know, especially in a space like this with crypto where, there are people that sit there and, you may talk about something that they are irresponsible with it and that it doesn't work out, right? Like one way or the other, there are people that make irrational decisions. And whether that affects me right now or say down the road, maybe when I do have a family and they are carried into that type of stuff, like, I think that that's the one thing that's really difficult for me to just break down that barrier and go through that wall. It's just the idea that, okay, once you go through it, there's no going back, right? Like it's one or the other. And right now, the idea of having that privacy, especially through the next bull run, because at the end of the day, dude, like I don't do this for any type of fame or recognition. Like I enjoy it, but I don't care about being famous. Like it's
of course.
Like that's not something that just excites me. So, like what would excite me though is it'd be a lot easier to make connections. And, I think it'd be more engaging for people, for instance, on a conversation like this, to see two people with their faces interacting rather than like one guy with this great smile and another guy that has just this rotating circle going back and forth, around his like crappy Photoshop PFP. So
yeah, no, it's all right. I was like, I don't know if he'll dox. You had kind of joked about it like in a couple spaces. And my wife was like, is he gonna dox? And I was like, I don't think so. But yeah,
one day.
The time's right for you, man. The time's right.
One day.
Yeah. No, I think it'll be great. However it happens, it'll be the right move. But I'm excited to hear this. I'm going to ask you this question. What is the happiest moment of your life so far?
Oh, happiest moment of my life. I don't know the answer to that question. I wish I could think to just one moment and say that's it. But like,
do you have a few?
Man, now I just feel like this really depressing person. I can't think of any general moments like at all that just stand above the rest. I don't know, man. I wish I did.
That moment of that guy dropping that pizza, I mean, that was incredible, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, no, that was definitely funny.
You don't have like one moment where you're like, fuck, that was awesome.
I don't know. I can't think of one. If this were a job interview, I guess I just failed. You got to find a different candidate.
All right. That's okay. It might come to you while we're going on. I feel like I'm gonna hit you with some hard questions, but this last one under happiness is what are some communities within the NFT space that you're involved in, or that you just like and enjoy being involved in?
Okay, so you said what are some communities that you like, or
yeah.
I mean, dude, I think the Pudgy community was the very first one that connected with that. Dude, they just are incredibly welcoming. And the other thing too, dude, one thing that's been tough, so something I haven't had the opportunity to tweet about, but like something that was difficult for me over the course of the past month, like I ended up having to liquidate a bunch of my NFTs. And like one of the things that I didn't end up talking about as deeply as it like was the impact of the FTX situation and how it affected me. And, basically like the last month ended up having to liquidate a lot of the NFT collection that I had because I needed some type of liquid position. Right. And like, the fact that regardless of whether, I hold that massive position or not, the way that these communities that accepted me in at the beginning still accept me, and like I still support them and incredibly bullish on each and every one of these, and plan on diving back in heavily down the road. But, again, I think that's something that shows a lot, because there are other communities that, aren't that understanding with that. If somebody does sell an NFT where they'll crucify you, blacklist you and say you are the first person that like we don't want to communicate with. So I think that's something that speaks volumes about a community, isn't just like the way that they accept you whenever you enter into it, but also, whenever you exit from it as well, because like that shows that they care more about the person than just the position, right? And that's why I'm so incredibly bullish on where they're heading. And like, I've got so much FOMO right now, looking and seeing what's happening with it, because dude, they are going to be so incredibly big moving forward from this. So yeah, man, like that's, I think, something that's super special. And yeah, especially the first NFT collection outside of the Wonky Stonks, which, obviously like the Wonky Stonks community, man, like, I've got to show my own thing. Like, dude, they are the absolute best. No matter what I'm going through, like if I'm looking for people that are in this space that like actually care about my well-being, and, like I went through a difficult breakup here, like last month, that I was dating a girl for 4 years, really love her. Like, if you're in a relationship like that for that long,
yeah,
there are a lot of good things about that person, right? It was just something that was unfortunate that just, finally realized, okay, this isn't working out. A lot of my issues that came into play there. And, you've got to completely rework the way that your brain works when you're taking somebody that, is so integrated into your life out of it, and, rework all of your habits, your ways of thinking, your way of pursuing everything else. I mean, heck, like I even posted about the dog. Like I took care of her dog like every day for 2 years. So like haven't seen that dog in a month, and like it sucks. So the dog didn't die if you saw the dog post. I just don't have access to it anymore. So like, there are a lot of little things like that add up. And I'm telling you, man, like, just the outreach from those guys throughout that time. Like, I'm not going to be the guy that tweets about those type of situations when they go down, because I don't want to weigh my burdens on everybody else, right? Like, vomit my garbage, basically. But like those guys actually care enough to dive into it, pulse check, in the private DMs. And like, that's meant a ton too. And outside of that, throughout the course of the bear market, man, like, we've just vibed for the past year, and, thick and thin, ups and downs, like those guys have always been around.
No, I'm glad that you have that community, and I think it's important to talk about things. And I think what's super cool like about this community is just this, there is a lot of support just generally, right? Like on crypto Twitter, I was saying it the other day, I was like, people want to cheer so much when people win, which is fucking awesome. Like I get so excited when people win, but also when people are struggling is when people do help, pick them up or send them words of encouragement. And I think like, my son is going through some stuff. So I posted just like if people could send good energy and prayers, and it was like crazy, just like the message I was getting, the feedback, just the love, like the energy was just, it was really truly like amazing to see like, okay, fuck, like this is going to evolve into something bigger. Like I already thought it was going to be big, right? Like in the future, but like now I'm like, dude, this is like real type shit that I want to see in the world.
I love that, man. I mean, yeah, and that is something I think that's also special and unique about the NFT community in general versus crypto Twitter. Not to say that you don't have some of those type of connections that formed in the old school CT, but I feel like they were more rare than they are in the NFT communities.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, dude, let's move into inspiration. I love this. You're firing me up with your community. This question is super fun. What is one lesson in your life that you had to learn the hard way?
Man, things don't always go the way that you plan them, but that doesn't mean that, they don't go the way they're supposed to. Yeah. If I were to write the script on my life, like I would never be where I am today. And, a lot of the success that you have in life only happens after certain failures, right? You've got to be able to double down and figure out ways to be able to work through that, right? And, like, had everything gone perfect with my engineering career and, COVID never happened, this, that, and the other, like, I would never be where I am today. And I truly believe that with every situation that happens, I mean, heck, even with the FTX thing, for instance, where, I had that massive setback, I truly believe that there are opportunities that will come from that. Because at the end of the day, like we talked about earlier, you know, what your net worth is, like, that's not going to be what carries over into the next life. Like, and I think there are certain things where I even look at it before the FTX situation where I was a little bit contented with where I was. And I look at it now and I feel like I've got a different hustle than I did back then. And it is something that you don't know exactly what the answer is for where that's going to lead, but I am very confident that whatever, the situation is coming back from the other side of it all, it'll lead to something more than what I would have had I just continued to coast. So, I think that's something that people have to appreciate in life, that there are going to be challenges, but it's all about the perspective, right? Like, there are opportunities that can come from those challenges that you would have never gotten had you just continued to coast on whatever you plan.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think, and I think, divine timing, and, you're just where you're supposed to be, and growing from that experience, FTX was fucked. And so the fact that you've taken that and harnessed it, and you're working harder, I think is incredible. And I think for a lot of us that happened, we're like, fuck, like we need to, we get serious about this because serious shit can happen. Is there anybody in your life that you've maybe looked up to, or you have an inspirational leader that has led you, just that you've looked up to throughout your life?
Yeah, man. I mean, again, cliche with it, but like my dad in that type of situation, I would say is somebody that, he never worked a super sexy job, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, so we lived pretty frugally growing up, but had everything that we needed. And I think that he really was an example as far as setting what are the priorities and going back to what you're talking about as far as inspiration for what does success look like, that it's not having this massive balance sheet. It's about saying, okay, like, how am I prioritizing my family, and how am I prioritizing like my faith and the way that I'm giving back to others. Like, I used to hate him for the fact that when we went to church, for instance, that we were like the first people there and the last people out because he was volunteering, helping, or that we would have to show up to every single volunteer event that like happened, or that, like, or I always did appreciate that he was there at every single game, found a way, and he'd volunteer to be the, my coach and my siblings' coaches, and work all of that in. And things that I realize right now in retrospect were just really unique. And none of it revolved around money, right? So that's what I'm saying at the end of the day. Like, I obviously, with this account, enjoy everything in the crypto space, but if it doesn't lead towards something bigger outside of it, then none of it's worth it.
Yeah, no, I love it, dude, and that's exactly how I grew up with my parents and my dad literally being my coach and being at every single um, event. I played. My dream was to play football in the NFL, and that just wasn't going to be a thing because of my size. So I played college football, and that was a dream of mine as well, right? And so my second year, I tore my ACL and I lost my scholarship completely. And so I moved back home, and I was like, I've pretty much accomplished my dreams. And so I worked for my dad because I was like, he gave me everything growing up, and everything I ever needed as far as like being there for me. And so I didn't like it, but because he could be there for my sporting events, because he was always able to provide for the family at not a crazy level, but a good enough level. And like those moments of like he was at every single football game I ever had growing up, like was 10x more important than me going and finding a $300,000 job. And so it has allowed me to, build my family and have the experiences with my family where, if I have to leave work to go to a appointment, like I'm going. Right. And so like, I think those things are more important. And the fact that you said that about your dad, I think is incredible and builds immense character.
No, I love to hear that, man. It definitely shows in your energy that you bring to the table every day too.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. As the last question under inspiration is, what's your favorite inspirational movie?
Oh man, like I'm gonna draw another blank. These favorite and extreme questions are tough.
You gotta you gotta give a movie. You gotta have a good movie.
I can't think of one. Like I don't know.
What's your favorite movie?
I don't have a favorite movie. Okay, back in the day when I'll tell you what my answer was out of high school. My answer out of high school was Gladiator. I don't think that's true anymore. But Gladiator was my favorite movie out of high school. Loved kind of the underdog story, him coming back and, doing things the right way, earning his way to the top, dying with honor, whatever else. It was, like that was always badass. Actually, my very first PFP was, the Russell Crowe from Gladiator when he yells up like, "Are you not entertained?" to the crowd, that picture right there. And what he was holding in one hand was a sword. The other was, I think, his helmet. And I replaced the helmet with the Bitcoin logo. And that was my very first PFP that I ever had whenever I, made the Crypto Kaleo account.
Dude, I love it. I literally love that movie. And your photo now has a Gladiator helmet.
Yeah, so whenever the PFP evolved, this was the second iteration, and it was because there was this thing, before NFTs, people would do these random groups, like either, the Crypto Soup group was one, another was the Crypto Suit group, where people would just find, they would take their PFP of whatever it was, and they would just attach a suit to it, and kind of like what you've seen with certain collections where they've taken their PFPs and they're not really like suited out. They'll say like suits on for Sotheby's or something like that. It was that same type of mindset just across the board. So everybody did that. And I found this and, just ended up like doing my cheap Photoshop to be able to create it into what it was. I was like, that's way cleaner than what the other one was. So
I fuck with it. I like it. I'm glad you found at least an answer. And it's behind the fucking PFP. Like, I think that was great. We fucking workshopped that. So don't be down on yourself. Listen, I know these are hard questions. And I feel like no one's really interviewed this like side of you, I'm sure. So that was the one thing I was really excited was like, I wonder like if people really talk to Kaleo about this kind of shit.
I mean, not as often. It happens a little bit, but not as deep.
Right.
Definitely unique.
What'd you say?
I said definitely unique.
Oh yeah, thanks. So it's positivity. Listen, positivity is my shit. I'm all about it. Making it louder every single day. This is a pretty general topic, okay, that I like to cover, and I like to hear the person's perspective around it. So we talk about, having a positive mindset, and the definition behind having a positive mindset is focusing on the good in every situation. Now, doesn't mean that you're delusional to everything that happens, because shit happens every single day. Sometimes FTX collapses, but it's how you respond. And so can you tell me a little bit about, your positive mindset, or how maybe your positive mindset has grown and what that means to you in your life?
Yeah, I think it's about having something that transcends, what your bottom line is, or what your job is, or your position in life, anything else. Because if that's what it is, that's going to fluctuate day to day, right? Like, my key personally, and like I know a lot of people where they're like, hey, it's my kids doing something more for them, it's my family doing this or that. For me, it's my faith, where I really do believe that everything I do in this world, like, one, like Romans 8:28 says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, those who have been called according to his plan. And like, he has a plan. Like, I truly do believe that there's a plan for my life. and that like at the end of the day, everything that I do is to give him glory. And like that may sound cliche, and like I'm never going to sit there and be the person that tells anybody, hey, you have to believe what I believe. But like I'm not going to be the person that shies away from what I believe either. So, whether I am successful or not, I really believe that's what it all plays back into. So, like on the other side of it, like, there's another verse I love, Colossians 3:23, that says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for men. Right. So like, that's the thing too. So if you are going to do something, do it well. And, I think that's what helps whenever you do experience failures is you don't necessarily perceive them as failures. You do perceive them as lessons. You do perceive them as opportunities. And same thing with success. It keeps you even keeled and, reels you back into reality because you're like, okay, where did this success come from? What is its ultimate purpose? And I think that like having that outlook is something where you are a lot more consistent about the opportunity to stay positive about every situation because you see things within the big picture.
Yeah. No, you fucking killed that, dude. Like and what I loved the most was, I'm super faithful as well. And I think, not shying away, but not pushing it on people, I think is a beautiful way that you said that. And I think that's incredible. And when you just truly, you just know, like, I've worked my job for the last 9 years, but just knew that I was here for something else. Right. And so I'm leaving my job in 5 weeks now to start that nonprofit I was telling you about. And it's just like, it took 9 years of learning and being patient and growing as a human and as a businessman and as a salesman to get to this point. And it's like, I just knew the whole time I was doing that job, like I need to do something else. Like I know that I'm here to do something else way bigger, way more impactful. And now like being able to leave my job is like something that's going to be so wild. Like I really don't know what the rush of emotions are going to be, but like I know that I'm just going to go. I just keep telling people like I'm like the world's going to be crazy. I'm just going to blow positivity up into the world and like into these teenagers' lives. And so I'm just so fucking excited. So I love that you said that.
No, I'm hyped for you, man. The idea of a nonprofit for teens, it can even sound a little bit sexy, but it sounds tough. But I think that the actual reality of how difficult it is something that people don't understand until they actually experience it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Right. And like you said earlier, right? Like a lot of teenagers' lives is tough, man, especially being in high school right now. I couldn't even imagine. And so like having someone they can look at that gives them leadership skills or, a positive affirmation that they might not have could literally change a kid's lives. And I've seen it firsthand volunteering on leadership courses that I've been involved in. And it's like just mind blowing that, they don't have it other places. So being there for them to show them things that like that I have learned is like something I'm just so passionate about.
No, that's amazing, man. So when does that officially kick off?
So my last day works April 7th. And then, I'm launching the foundation in the middle of May. So I'm literally April 7th is my last day of work. And then I go straight to NYC the next week for NFT NYC. I'm speaking. And then I'm hoping to speak at VCon as well, which is in May. And that'll be huge because I wanted like not only have the nonprofit, but I'm very passionate about like having a speaking career. Separate from the foundation, but obviously I can talk about the foundation at any speaking engagement. I think that's something I've been super passionate about because like this energy that I have is a gift. I just feel like I've been given this and I need to just give it to everybody in the world. Like that's how I've always felt. Like I've had this energy and it's been right here and like I want to explode it into the world.
Dude, it's so cool that you recognize that. A lot of people I feel like have that calling and have that gift, but what sets people apart are the ones that aren't afraid to pursue it.
Yeah, and for sure, right? Like starting a nonprofit is like, and what I'm doing is not going to be easy and it's scary. And like I had a conversation with my dad probably like 4 weeks ago, and he you could just tell like he was scared. He was like, listen, like if like you can't go back. And I'm like, yeah, but like I can't focus on that. Like I can't focus on the fear. Like I'm focused on the fact that I'm gonna fucking crush this. Like that's my mindset is like I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's like, how I felt. Like I'm not gonna downplay the fact that it's not scary, but like I have faith, right? And so that's like ultimately the thing is like I have complete faith that this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Love to hear it, man. I mean, hey, it is always inspirational seeing people pursue their dreams slash their passion.
Let's fucking go, dude. We're absolutely riding out here. Enthusiasm. I'm excited. You're gonna definitely have answers to these questions. The first question is 3 things right now that you're obsessed with. Like, give me 3 things that you can't get enough of right now in your life.
Oh man, it's funny that I say this. I'm washed up, crippled, and 31, but basketball, like I love to play, man. I've got a passion where it is just so easy to exercise, and I am naturally a competitive person, so it is fun getting out there and you have the opportunity to meet, like I've made some really good friends just from pickup basketball and just going out there, having that opportunity. And, unfortunately I've got glass ankles and glass knees and I'm overweight. And, my vertical that once could get pretty high off the ground, I now can only not get very high off the ground. And, a lot of things change as you get a little bit older and you have injuries.
Are you like 6'7" or something?
No, dude, I'm only 6'1".
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm nothing crazy.
Okay.
My little brother's 6'5". Heck, both my sisters are 6 foot.
Holy shit.
So I'm the short one in the family. But yeah. So no, cool. I enjoy playing though, man. It's just something that's really fun. So that's one. I can't get enough of that. As much as my body lets me, I'll go out there and play. Number 2, man, I don't know, like there are waves that you get of not having enough of just pouring into the community and having enough of building connections on Twitter. But honestly, like right now, I feel like that's opening back up again. I feel like there were a few weeks there where it paused after my girlfriend and I broke up, and I was just kind of in this weird funk, man. But I feel like coming back out of it, that's one of the biggest things that's just giving me energy. Again, it's just pouring back onto, this has been my passion, right? Like building something bigger and having the opportunity to make connections with people and create an impact that's bigger than myself via this platform, this opportunity that I've been given. I feel like I am wasting it if I'm not doing something with it. So it's been really cool just, diving in, meeting a lot of people like you, the Wonky Stunk community, continuing to grow with them has been really cool. And just outside of that, man, just the general connections that you continue to grow in this space. Like I am excited about where we're heading the next couple of years. I am so bullish on 2024, 2025. It's not even funny, man. I think that it is going to make what we saw in 2021, 2022 look like a blip on the radar, which may sound crazy, but people give me a hard time about being a permabull. It's not true. Like, in a sense, yes, I am, right? Like I am permabullish on this space. I really am. But, there are periods where I've been bearish. And I think that even right now, like curb your expectations through 2023. I think that, hey, there's going to be some fun to be had, but nothing crazy until the next, really later until, later 2024, 2025, especially. But I cannot get enough about just preparing for that. And, not just that, but, sharing that vision with others. I think that it's really cool to be able to inspire others toward that. Let's see, the last thing, dude, I don't know. I really can't think of the good last answer. I think that, it's kind of just finding myself a little bit again, again, as you end a relationship with somebody that's that serious, that long, I think that so much of your life revolves around that other person. And, it's tough even saying this right now because there's still part of you where you're like, okay, you missed that person and you hope the best for them. And if they hear this, that you're like, it feels like you're like cheating on them saying it, but no, you're not. You've already like established the position. But it's like I really am excited to like just find myself again, whether that's being more outgoing, going to more of these conferences, traveling more, doing that type of stuff. Like that's going to be one of the things that I really focus on this next year is just continuing to, find myself and build more relationships outside of, just Twitter.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I think it's great, Dan. Finding yourself is a beautiful thing, and you get another chance to do it, man. And so it's gonna be a nice journey that you can just embrace and get on it, and just, I mean, you're faithful, so like it's just gonna be a fun journey. So I love to hear it. What has been? Listen, I don't know. These next two questions are gonna challenge you, but I want fucking answers. Okay, what has been the biggest accomplishment of your life?
Man, biggest accomplishment of my life. Oh, it's tough to say because I feel like everything is still in motion.
Mhm.
In general, I would say that it is the impact that I know my faith has had on others where, I look back throughout the years and there are certain people that like I've had the opportunity to share my faith with and, pour into their lives and seeing the way that, they really have just used that and carried it forward has been something like, my little brother, for instance, I always had the prayer like in college. I was like, Elijah and Elisha, if you know anything about the Bible, basically Elijah, Elisha, like Elisha had, Elijah's prayer for Elisha was to have double the heart, double the portion of his heart whenever he was gone. And like that was always my prayer for my little brother was that he would have double the heart for the Lord for me. And like seeing the way that he's just grown in that, I don't even know if I can claim it as an accomplishment, right? I don't think I can, but just seeing, really is something that I'm incredibly proud of. Is just seeing the way that he has, grown as a man and the relationship that we've had, the way that, as much as I want to be somebody that encourages him, the way he's just had this wisdom beyond his years and encourages me is something that is really special.
Oh, that's amazing, dude. That's incredible. How much younger is he than you?
Like 2.5, 3 years.
Oh, that's cool. That's a cool connection. Yeah, for sure. That's badass. That's badass. I fucking love it. Listen, what has been your most exciting moment in Web3 so far?
Most exciting moment in Web3. I mean, it's got to be like April of 2021, man. I was DJing on a different level. Dude, I felt like I had God mode on for a little bit where every trade I was making was just instant, like, completely successful. And, fractals were playing out perfectly across the board. And, you saw those millions of dollars being printed on the screen daily. And then, within a month, getting like humbled and washing away a lot of that. Like, that was a really, really crazy time period. But yeah, like there are a lot of others, but probably as far as the overall, gravity/weight of the moment, probably that.
That's fucking honest. That's fucking awesome. That would have been so much fun. Oh man, I love it. I love it. Your excitement about it, you could just tell while you were talking about it. So I love that. Listen, we're gonna go into dreams, and this is a very incredible segment that I always thought this question would be so hard. Like no one would be able to do it, but everybody has just fucking crushed this. So I know that you're gonna crush this. Okay, listen. I'm going to ask you what the dream that you have for your life is, and I'm going to read you my dream. Okay. And I'm going to ask you straight off your heart what your dream is that you have for your life. So I'm Gentle Tornado. I'm an honest, enthusiastic, and successful man that will inspire others to live their life through happiness. Thought you might have just
like kind of like a vision statement.
Yeah.
I need to think for a second. I don't know. I'll just go what comes from the heart. I'm Crypto Kaleo, and my vision is having the opportunity to create an impact in this space bigger than myself, whether it is through creating a dynamic and positive community in the NFT space or helping people just catch on to the idea and vision and potential freedom that Web3 can offer them and where it's heading down the road. If there's somebody that, I can help inspire to see that vision in the heart of what I believe is the bear market and see their way to the next bull market, then I feel like I have achieved my goal. That's something I really want to do, is just be inspirational to people and help them to see past, whatever's happening in the day to day and be able to zoom out and understand the potential for what's to come.
Love it. I love it. That was amazing for sure, dude. I listen, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to read you my favorite poem. I already know you're going to love this. Okay. It's called The Dash. It says, I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that they spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash?
Yo, that is cool. I like that. Gives more meaning when I see a dash on on the date page now.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. It hits every time. Every time I freaking read that thing, it just hits so hard. It's incredible. Listen, okay. Well, how we close it out is that you get to leave the audience with one final statement, and then you get to leave them with a question.
One final statement and a question. Be more bullish. And what is stopping you from pursuing what you believe in?
Nice. That's a good one. That's a powerful one. I love it. Listen, this has been Hyped Happy Hour episode 46 with my man Crypto Kaleo. He's an absolute legend. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Please share this with anybody you think will get value. All of my ats are Live Hyped, LIVEHIPED. Subscribe to my YouTube if you haven't. We are absolutely riding. We're changing the world. Kaleo, thanks for coming on, my guy.
Hey, really appreciate you having me, man. Definitely enjoyed it. Glad we finally got the audio working enough to get going.
Let's go, dude. Listen, everybody have a great day. Love you. Peace.